Okay friends, so it is officially 10 p.m. and we are going to start by preheating our Oklahoma Joe's Tahoma 900. I'm really excited to make this overnight brisket, so I'm going to be using hickory wood chips today. Make sure you load it up all the way to the fill line. Lock the hopper up, and now it's time to start our fire. Making sure our Tahoma has enough time to preheat before we throw our brisket in is a very crucial step, so let your tumbleweeds or starters of choice breathe for a couple minutes before closing and locking up. Don't forget to open up your vent. And because we want a clean fire, we're going to make sure there's enough airflow in our smoker. Set your starting temp and then open the lid up. Let that fire breathe. Now it's time to prep our brisket. I pre-trimmed this brisket. If you don't know how to trim a brisket properly or need a little help, go ahead and check out my Texas style brisket on the Oklahoma Joe's YouTube channel. Today I'm using Oklahoma Joe's Texas rub and a little bit of a salt and pepper blend. But while I'm seasoning this brisket, I do want to talk about how we're going to set ourselves up for success during this overnight cook. If you're like me, I love to sleep. I'm definitely using a meat probe during this cook so I can monitor the ambient temperature as well as the internal temperature of this brisket. I'm going to utilize my wireless meat probe by setting alarms. My alarms are going to basically notify me if the ambient or internal temp get too hot or drop too much. Now these are a couple common sense things, but I'm still going to notate them. And also monitor the Tahoma temperatures with the Oklahoma Joe's app. But with that being said, you have to be in range. So I am sleeping on the couch tonight, but that's okay. You are also going to want to make sure your ringer is on, because common sense guys, if your phone's on do not disturb or your ringer's not on, how can you hear the alarms? Alright, our Tahoma is up to temp. Now I don't plan on getting up for this brisket to spritz, so I'm going to add a water pan. Placing the brisket directly above the water pan is the ultimate way to protect your brisket during this cook. It's also going to help keep the bark moist. Alright, so this beauty is secure, and now it's time to insert our probe. You're just going to let this brisket cook low and slow, 225 degrees until the morning. Good morning friends, it's 6 a.m. and I'm checking on our fire. This is how our fire looks, and we definitely need to refuel. This brisket was pretty big. It was roughly 17 pounds and it's currently going through a late stall, but we're going to take a sneak peek. My brisket stalled at 177 degrees, so we're going to crank the heat up to 275 until it reaches an internal temp of 201 to 203 or until probe tender. We got through the stall, and as you can see, the bark got darker and the fat is nice and rendered. It is currently 8 in the morning and I'm officially resting my brisket. I'm going to add some beef tallow and wrap her up. This is the easiest smoked brisket I've ever done. The Tahoma 900 was definitely a beast last night and did all the work for me. Because let's be honest, who doesn't love waking up to a smoked brisket? But with that being said, we still need to let our brisket rest. I'm going to let my brisket rest till it drops to an internal temp of 150 degrees. So technically this is a brunch brisket, not a breakfast brisket. Alright, our brisket is officially ready. It is currently 11 a.m. and she is ready to slice. In this house, we don't waste anything, so we're gonna drizzle that au jus back onto the brisket. But I'm telling you guys, when I lifted this brisket up, it felt amazing. And as I apply a little bit of pressure, you can see how rendered the point is. I did leave on more of the point than I usually do because I'm going to make burnt ends, so stay tuned to the ending. So that little line is basically my guide to remove the point from the flat. You don't have to be perfect. As long as you get most of the point off, you're good. Now I want y'all to check out this point. It is extremely, and I mean extremely, rendered. I'm going to move the flat to the side so I can give you a visual of what I'm talking about. My knife literally goes in like butter. I'm going to slice the point up into 1-inch cubes. I've made burnt ends all types of ways. Personally, I just like seeing the smoke ring in my burnt ends, but it is just prettier and we eat with our eyes. But as I'm slicing into the point, you can see how rendered it is. So when we throw them back into the smoker, it won't be for a long time. Maybe 15 to 20 minutes, just enough for the sauce to caramelize, but we'll get into that a little later. I'm gonna set these burnt ends to the side so we can slice our flat. Don't forget to cover them with foil and seal tight. We don't want these pretty burnt ends turning gray. Now it's time to get into the flat. There is still a little bit of fat left over from the point. I'm gonna remove it. Some people prefer to leave it on. It's ultimately up to you. Once you got all of that removed, we can go ahead and get ready to slice. I'm very curious to see how the flat came out, especially because the flat can overcook so easily and I wasn't there to make sure it didn't. I left all my trust in the Tahoma. Well guys, the Tahoma did not disappoint. The flat is so juicy. So let me give you a close-up. This brisket flat is so perfectly rendered and still moist, literally dripping. So there's only one thing left to do. It's time to slice into it to see the real results. This part of the flat that was right underneath the point is so juicy. I'm actually gonna set it to the side for brisket tacos, because if you have kids like me, you know they're not gonna wait for those burnt ends. While I was grabbing a disposable pan to put my flat in, I did leave my camera rolling and I'm so glad I did. As you can see, the end part of the flat that was not underneath the point is literally dripping. I wanted y'all to see how truly juicy it was. Overall, this brisket was truly a 10 out of 10. Yes, the Tahoma 900 absolutely did all the work, but setting ourselves up for the success, especially with that water pan, definitely helped keep moisture in this brisket. Now it's time to slice into this part of the flat. Again, this part of the flat is so easily overcooked and still remained extremely juicy. I'm going to give you guys a close-up just so you can see for yourselves. The brisket is still flexible, so it's not overcooked, but breaks with no resistance. If you still have your doubts, let me show you the tip of the flat. This part of the flat, 9 out of 10 times people overcook. It tends to be the driest part of the brisket. As you can see, it is 100% rendered down but still soft. Moisture is still intact and it breaks apart like butter. Alright guys, that wraps up the flat of our brisket. I'm just gonna give y'all guys a final shot of the bark before my family devours this. Okay, so let's make some burnt ends. So we're gonna throw these back on the smoker at 250 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes. Super simple, all you have to add is butter, brown sugar, and your favorite barbecue sauce. Wrap it nice and tight with foil. Again, do not overcook these things. 15 to 20 minutes max. Just enough time for the sauce to caramelize. Of course, I'm gonna show you how the burnt ends came out. Literally meat candy. I am a sucker for a good brisket burnt end. They came out exactly how I wanted them to. Sticky and they melt in your hand. But they still have to be juicy. They can't be dry. Because I'm a big advocate of leaving the juices inside your meat. Stop squeezing it. Well, that pretty much wraps up this video. I'm off to go devour this brisket. Let me know if you have any questions. You know the drill. Leave them down below. Till next time guys, enjoy.